The research vessel Luminous Discovery drifted through the dead nebula like a ghost through fog. Its sensor arrays swept back and forth, searching for anything interesting in the cosmic graveyard. This region of space had been empty for as long as anyone could remember. Ancient stars had died here millions of years ago, leaving behind only dust and silence. Dr. Velrax stood on the bridge, his 4 eyes scanning the display screens. His insect-like body clicked with excitement as strange readings appeared on the monitors. Something massive was hidden beneath layers of frozen gas and stellar debris, something that should not exist. "Captain, we have anomalous contacts," Velrax said, his translator converting his clicking mandibles into standard galactic speech. 17. No, 43. "Captain, there are hundreds of objects down there." The captain, a reptilian being named Soreth, moved closer to the display. Her scales changed color from calm blue to alert orange. "Define objects, Doctor." "Artificial structures." "Extremely old. The energy signatures are almost dead, but they're there." Velrax manipulated the controls, trying to get a clearer reading. "Captain, I believe we found a ship graveyard. But the size of these vessels, they're enormous." Soreth authorized a closer approach. The Luminous Discovery descended into the nebula, its lights cutting through the ancient dust. Slowly, shapes began to emerge from the darkness. Hull plating, weapons ports, the unmistakable lines of warships. But these were not like any warships in the current galaxy. They were massive, each one larger than a city. Their design was angular and aggressive, covered in strange symbols that none of the ship's translation computers could recognize. Ice and cosmic dust had buried them for so long that they looked like natural formations. "How old are these ships?" Soreth asked quietly. Velrax ran several tests, checking his results multiple times before answering. "Captain, the stellar dust accumulation suggests over 1 million years, possibly more." Silence filled the bridge. 1 million years ago, the oldest known civilization was barely learning to make fire. These ships predated everything. They predated the Galactic Council itself. "I'm detecting a power fluctuation," the sensor officer announced suddenly. "One of the ships. Something is activating inside it." Everyone on the bridge turned to look at the main display. Deep within the largest vessel, a faint energy signature was growing stronger. It pulsed like a heartbeat, slow and steady. "This is impossible," Soreth whispered. Nothing could still function after 1 million years. Velrax's excitement overcame his caution. "Captain, we must investigate. This could be the greatest archaeological discovery in galactic history. We might finally learn what happened to the precursors." After a tense moment, Soreth agreed. They suited up and took a shuttle to the massive warship. As they approached, their lights revealed more details. The hull was scarred with weapons damage. Whatever battle these ships had fought, it had been terrible. They found an airlock that still responded to basic commands. The door groaned open after 1 million years of sleep, revealing a dark corridor beyond. The exploration team moved inside carefully, their suit lights pushing back the darkness. The interior was pristine beneath the dust. Everything was labeled in the strange symbols, but the layout was logical. Corridors led to rooms with clear purposes. This was a military vessel designed for war. "The artificial gravity is activating," one of the team members reported. "Life support is coming online. Captain, this ship is waking up." They moved deeper into the vessel, following the strongest energy signatures. The ship seemed to respond to their presence, lights flickering on ahead of them, showing them the way. It led them to a massive chamber deep in the ship's core. Rows of cylindrical pods lined the walls, hundreds of them. Most were dark and dead, their contents lost to time. But one pod in the center of the room was glowing with blue light. Frost covered its surface, but something was moving inside. Velrax approached it carefully. Through the ice he could see a shape, bipedal, roughly humanoid. He wiped away some of the frost and found himself looking at a face. The pod began to open with a hiss of ancient hydraulics. Warm air rushed out, melting the remaining ice. The figure inside took a sudden gasping breath. She sat up quickly, her eyes wild with confusion. She wore a dark blue uniform with insignia that meant nothing to the current galaxy. Her skin was pale from the long sleep, and her black hair was tied back in a practical style. She looked around the chamber at the aliens staring at her, and confusion filled her face. She spoke, but the words meant nothing to the translation devices. An unknown language unregistered in any database. Velrax activated his Universal Translator's learning protocol. The woman kept speaking, her voice gaining strength. Questions, demands, words that sounded like names and orders. After several minutes, the translator began to work. Fragments at first, then whole words. Report, status. Where is Admiral Torres, fleet, the Devourers? Velrak stepped forward, keeping his movements slow and non-threatening. Please remain calm. You are safe. My name is Dr. Velrax. Can you understand me? The woman focused on him, her confusion deepening. You're not... What species? Where is my crew? Where is the fleet? She tried to stand, wobbled, and caught herself against the pod. I need to speak with Fleet Command immediately. The Devourers, please, Velrax said gently. What is your name? What species are you? She stared at him like he was insane. Commander Sarah Chen, Terran Space Navy, 7th Fleet. She pointed at the insignia on her uniform. Human, I'm human. Now where the hell is Admiral Torres? The word sent a shock through every member of the exploration team. Human, the dead species. The precursors. The ancient legends who built impossible things and then vanished without a trace, leaving only ruins and mysteries behind. That's not possible, Sorth said quietly. Humans have been extinct for over 900,000 years. Sarah Chen's face went pale. She looked around the chamber again, really seeing it for the first time. The dust, the decay, the dead pods surrounding her. How long? Her voice was barely a whisper. How long was I asleep? Velrax hesitated, then told her the truth. Based on stellar drift and dust accumulation over 1 million years. Sarah's legs gave out. She sank to the floor, staring at nothing. 1 million years. Everyone she knew was dead. Earth was... She didn't even know if Earth still existed. Then another pod began to open. And another. Throughout the chamber, blue lights activated. More humans were waking up. Sarah looked up, hope and horror mixing in her expression. Outside the ship, the entire nebula began to change. Energy signatures bloomed across hundreds of vessels. Ancient reactors coughed to life. Weapon systems ran diagnostic checks. Ship after ship, the fleet was awakening from its million-year sleep. On the bridge of the luminous Discovery, alarms began to sound. The sensor officer's voice was shaking. Captain, all the vessels are powering up. I'm reading energy signatures equivalent to our entire defense fleet. And there are 300 of them. Sarah Chen stood, steadying herself against the pod. She looked at the aliens who had found her, and despite everything, despite the impossible gulf of time, she straightened her uniform and spoke with command authority. The 7th Fleet lives, she said quietly. Then louder, to the humans waking around her. Sound off. I need a status report. All division commanders report to the bridge immediately. Dr. Velrax realized he was witnessing something impossible and terrifying. Humanity's legendary lost battle fleet had just returned from the dead, and they were asking about an enemy called the Devourers. The command center of the warship Indomitable hummed with activity for the first time in 1 million years. Humans moved through corridors with purpose. Though many stopped to lean against walls and weep, they were waking to a universe that had forgotten them. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, staring at the tactical display. Numbers scrolled past. Casualty reports from the long sleep. Of the 200,000 souls who entered stasis, only 47,000 survived. The rest had died when their pods failed over the centuries. Friends, families, entire divisions gone. Commander, we have communication with all active ships, reported Lieutenant James Park, the tactical officer. He looked thin and pale, but his voice was steady. 87 vessels are fully operational. Another 213 are damaged but can be repaired. Sarah nodded, processing the information. 300 ships, 47,000 people. That was her fleet now. The 7th Fleet that had once been the pride of humanity. Ma'am, the AI Corps is responding, called out Chief Engineer Maria Santos from her station. Athena is initializing. A holographic figure appeared in the center of the bridge. She looked human, wearing an ancient Terran Navy uniform. Her eyes held sadness as she looked around at the few surviving crew members. Welcome back, Commander Chen, Athena said softly. I have monitored the fleet for 1,043,612 years. It is good to hear human voices again. Sarah felt tears threatening but pushed them down. Status report, Athena. What happened after we entered stasis? What happened to Earth? Searching historical records. Athena's eyes went distant for a moment. Admiral Torres's gambit was successful. The Devourers were lured into the quantum trap at Sector 0. The explosion sealed the dimensional rift. The immediate threat was eliminated. And Earth? Humanity? The war cost everything, Commander. 90% of human worlds were consumed. Earth survived but was devastated. The remaining population numbered less than 1 billion. For 10,000 years, humanity rebuilt. Athena paused. Then, approximately 900,000 years ago, all records cease. Humanity vanished from normal space. The bridge fell silent. Everyone had hoped for better news. That somewhere, somehow, humanity survived. Dr. Velrax entered the bridge, accompanied by Captain Soreth. The aliens looked small and nervous among the reactivating human warship. Sarah turned to them, trying to be diplomatic despite the crushing grief. Dr. Captain, thank you for finding us. I need to understand the current political situation. Who controls this region of space? Velrax stepped forward, his mandibles clicking nervously. The Galactic Council, Commander. 47 species working together for mutual benefit and protection. This entire sector is Council space. 47 species, Sarah repeated. We had records of 17 intelligent species before the war. You've been busy. Commander Chen, Velrax said carefully, you must understand. Humans are legends to us. Your species is considered the precursors. We find your ruins on dozens of worlds. Your technology is so advanced we can barely understand it. There are museums dedicated to human artifacts. Sarah felt sick. Museums. They put humanity in museums. We meant no disrespect, Soreth added quickly. Human achievements are revered. Your species saved the galaxy from the Devourers. Every child in Council space learns about humanity's sacrifice. Show me, Sarah said. They brought her recorded files, educational programs, archaeological reports. Sarah watched as current galactic species studied human ruins like ancient Rome or Egypt. They had theories about why humanity disappeared. Some thought humans ascended to a higher plane. Others believed they spread to other galaxies. None knew the truth. She saw images of Earth. The continents had shifted. Oceans were different colors. But it was still home, still orbiting the same sun. The Galactic Council had designated it a protected heritage site. No one was allowed to disturb it. I want to go there, Sarah said. I need to see Earth. The request caused panic in the Galactic Council chambers. The humans had more military power in their ruined fleet than the entire Council Defense Force. What if they wanted Earth back? What if they were hostile? Sarah addressed the Council via viewscreen from the Indomitable. Dozens of alien species looked at her with fear and awe. We claim no territory, she said firmly. We are soldiers without a country. Our war is over. We simply want to see our home world and understand what happened to our people. That's all. After hours of debate, they agreed. The 7th Fleet would travel to Earth under Council escort. It would take 3 weeks at current fleet speeds. During the journey, Sarah spent her time in the archives with Athena. The AI had recorded everything about the Devourer War, the desperate battles, the planets that burned, the last message from Admiral Torres before she led the main fleet into the trap. Sarah, if you're hearing this, the gambit worked, but at a terrible cost. Torres's recorded message played. The 7th Fleet was our insurance policy. If the Devourers ever return, humanity will rise again to face them. Take care of the fleet. Take care of our people, and know that what we did mattered. Sarah closed her eyes. She had been 28 when she entered stasis. Now she was technically over 1 million years old and still 28. Everyone she loved was cosmic dust. But she had a purpose. She had her crew. She had the fleet. They arrived at Earth to find it beautiful and strange. The continents had drifted. Mountain ranges had risen and worn down. But there on the surface were ruins. Human cities preserved by the Galactic Council. New Geneva, Alexandria Prime, Tokyo Station. Sarah took a shuttle down with a small group. They landed near what had once been the United Nations headquarters. Now it was a memorial site. Aliens walked through carefully preserved streets, looking at human architecture with wonder. In the center stood a massive monument, the Tomb of Unknown Humanity. An eternal flame burned before it. On the base were written words in 100 languages, but the original was in English. Here lie the dreams of humanity. They gave everything so that life might continue. They asked for nothing but that they not be forgotten. We will remember. Sarah knelt before the monument and wept. Her crew stood around her, sharing her grief. They had won their war but lost everything else. Dr. Velrax approached carefully. Commander, there is something else you should see. We've found human data archives buried deep in the planet's crust. They survived intact. In an underground facility protected by doors that only human genetic signatures could open, they found the archives, holographic recordings left by the last humans, messages from 900,000 years ago. One message played automatically when Sarah approached. An old woman appeared, human, wearing simple clothes. Behind her, others moved about in what looked like a peaceful settlement. To whoever finds this, we are the last generation of physical humanity. We have won our war against the Devourers, but the cost was our civilization. We are too few to maintain our technology, our cities, our way of life. The old woman smiled sadly. But we did not fail. We gave the galaxy a chance to grow, to flourish without fear. And now we have a choice. We can fade away slowly or we can transform. The dimensional research left from the war offers us a path. We can evolve beyond physical form, become something new. We leave this message so you will know we did not die. We chose to change. We chose to let the physical universe belong to those who come after us. But we leave guardians behind. The fleets sleeping in stasis, waiting for if the darkness returns. The old woman looked directly at the camera. If you are human and you're watching this, the Devourers have returned. You are humanity's last gift to the galaxy. You are our promise kept. Fight well. The message ended. Sarah stood in silence, processing everything. Suddenly alarms blared. Park's voice came over her communicator. Commander, long-range sensors have detected anomalous energy signatures at Sector 12. 3 Council battle groups went to investigate. Sarah's blood ran cold. What kind of energy signatures? The computer is matching them against our historical database. Commander, it's a 97% match for Devourer bioships. The bridge erupted in chaos when Sarah returned. The Council battle groups at Sector 12 were gone. Just gone. 1,200 ships vanished in minutes. The enemy was not just back. They were stronger. Sarah looked at the tactical display showing the Devourer incursion. Everything she had lost, everything she had sacrificed was for nothing if they returned. She opened a channel to the entire fleet and to the Galactic Council. 1 million years ago, humanity made a promise. Never again would life bow to the darkness. We lost our civilization keeping that promise. We lost our world. We lost almost everything. She stood straighter. But the 7th Fleet survived. We survived so that when this moment came, we would be ready. The Devourers have returned, and they will find that humanity still stands between them and all life. She looked at her crew, her 47,000 ghosts from the past. All ships prepare for combat operations. Battle Protocol Omega. We're going back to war. The 7th Fleet moved through space like a school of predators. 300 warships, ancient beyond measure, heading toward an enemy that had already destroyed everything the modern galaxy could throw at them. Sarah Chen watched the tactical display from the bridge of the Indomitable, her expression grim. Estimated time to Sector 12? She asked. 4 days at maximum fleet speed, Park reported. The Devourers have taken 17 systems in the past week. They're moving faster than our records indicated. Sarah nodded. The Devourers were not ships or machines. They were something worse. Living weapons that existed partly in normal space and partly in higher dimensions. They consumed matter and energy, growing stronger with each world they destroyed. Behind the human fleet followed hundreds of council ships, not to fight but to watch. The galaxy wanted to see if the legends were true. Could humanity really stop this threat? During the journey, Sarah ordered combat drills. The fleet had been asleep for 1 million years. Systems needed testing, crew needed training. They practiced maneuvers that would have seemed impossible to modern ships. Precision jumps, coordinated strikes, formation fighting that required split-second timing. The council observers were amazed. Even with ancient equipment, the humans moved like a single organism. Their tactical doctrine was far beyond anything current species used. Dr. Velrax had joined the Indomitable, serving as a liaison between humans and the council. He spent hours talking with Sarah, trying to understand these resurrected warriors. How did humanity become so advanced? He asked one evening in the observation deck. Our records show humans went from primitive space travel to this level in only 2,000 years. Sarah looked out at the stars. Necessity. We encountered the Devourers early in our expansion. They destroyed our first colony world. We had a choice, advance or die. So we advanced. But the technology on these ships. Velrax clicked his mandibles and thought, we cannot replicate most of it. The weapon systems alone are centuries beyond our understanding. We had good teachers, Sarah said sadly. The Devourers taught us about higher dimensions. About quantum mechanics, about how to kill things that shouldn't exist. We learned from fighting them. She turned to face the insect-like alien. Doctor, I need you to understand something. Humanity didn't want to be warriors. We wanted to explore, to learn, to grow. But the universe forced us to fight, and once we started fighting, we discovered we were very, very good at it. That's what frightens the Council, Velrax admitted. Your species is legendary, but also terrifying. Some Council members want to help you. Others want to wait and see if the Devourers eliminate you before you become a threat. Sarah laughed bitterly. We're already a threat, Doctor. We're a threat to anything that threatens life. That's who we are. They arrived at Sector 12 to find devastation. 3 worlds were gone, their matter consumed and converted into more Devourer bioships. The enemy fleet was massive, easily 5,000 ships, each one a living nightmare of twisted biology and impossible physics. All ships, battle stations, Sarah ordered. Form defensive sphere formation. Weapons free on my command. The human fleet arranged itself in a complex 3-dimensional pattern. Each ship knew exactly where to be, creating overlapping fields of fire with no blind spots. The Devourers noticed them and changed course. They moved like a swarm, flowing through space in patterns that hurt to watch. They existed in multiple dimensions at once, flickering in and out of normal space. They're adapting already, Park reported. They're using tactics we haven't seen before. They've learned from their last encounter with humanity. Sarah felt cold certainty settle over her. The Devourers were intelligent in their own alien way. They remembered humanity. They remembered losing. Fire. The fleet opened up with everything. Plasma cannons that superheated space itself. Quantum torpedoes that struck in multiple timelines at once. Dimensional disruptors that forced the Devourers fully into normal space where they were vulnerable. The effect was devastating. Hundreds of Devourer ships died in the first salvo. But there were thousands more and they kept coming. The battle became chaos. The Devourers swarmed the human formation, trying to break through. Human ships fought back with precision and fury. They knew these enemies. They had fought them before in another lifetime. Engineer Santos's voice came over the command channel. Commander, we have a problem. The dimensional disruptors are overheating. They weren't designed to be used continuously for 1,000,000 years. How long can they last? Maybe another hour of sustained combat. Then we'll be relying on conventional weapons. Sarah cursed. The disruptors were their main advantage. Without them, the Devourers could phase through normal matter, making them nearly impossible to kill. Then something unexpected happened. Council ships joined the battle, hundreds of them adding their firepower to the fight. They were no match for the Devourers individually, but their sheer numbers helped. A communication came through from a Council dreadnought. Commander Chen, this is Admiral Cross of the Council Defense Fleet. We're not letting you fight alone. Humanity died for us once. We won't let you die again. Sarah felt emotion threaten to overwhelm her. These aliens, these species that had never known humanity, were willing to die for them. All Council ships follow our targeting data, she ordered. We'll paint the targets. You hit them while they're vulnerable. The combined fleet started to push back the Devourers. It was working. They were winning. Then the dimensional readings went insane. Space itself began to tear open. Something massive was coming through. Something that made the 5,000 bioships look like insignificant dots. A Devourer hive ship. A living planet, covered in weapons and dripping with entropic energy. The record said humanity had only encountered 3 of these during the entire war. They had destroyed fleets, consumed suns, ended civilizations. Get the Council ships out of here, Sarah ordered. Now. Commander, we can help. Admiral Cross started to protest. That thing will eat your entire fleet for breakfast. Get your people to safety. We'll handle this. The Council ships began to retreat. The human fleet moved to engage the hive ship alone. Park looked at Sarah with fear in his eyes. Commander, our weapons can't scratch that thing. It's too big, too powerful. Sarah accessed Athena's historical database. Show me how humanity killed the last hive ship. The answer appeared. Humanity had used a weapon called a quantum singularity missile. It created a small black hole inside the target. But the missiles were experimental, dangerous, and the Indomitable only had 3 remaining after 1,000,000 years. Load all remaining singularity missiles, Sarah ordered. Target the hive ship's core. Ma'am, if those missiles fail, we're defenseless, Santos warned. If we don't fire them, we're dead anyway. Do it, the missiles launched. 3 streaks of impossible physics racing toward the living planet. The hive ship tried to phase into higher dimensions to avoid them, but the human fleet coordinated their disruptors, forcing it to stay in normal space. The missiles hit. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality broke. 3 singularities formed inside the hive ship. The living planet began to collapse inward, screaming across every dimension. The smaller devourer ships around it were pulled in, consumed by the black holes consuming their parent. The singularities lasted only seconds before evaporating, but the damage was done. The hive ship was dead. Its mass converted into energy and radiation. The remaining devourers fled, disappearing into higher dimensions. The fleet had won, but the cost was terrible. 23 human ships destroyed, 6,000 crew dead, and this was just one battle in what would be a long war. Sarah sat in her command chair, exhausted. Dr. Velrax approached her cautiously. "Commander, the Council wants to speak with you. They want to coordinate our forces. They want to reactivate old human weapons factories. They want to learn from you." Sarah looked at him with tired eyes. "Tell them yes. Tell them humanity will teach them everything we know, because next time there might be more than one hive ship." She looked out at the damaged fleet, at the survivors, at the mess of what had been a victory. Humanity had won its first battle in 1,000,000 years. But the war was far from over. And somewhere in higher dimensions, the devourers were learning, adapting, preparing for the next encounter. Sarah activated the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Commander Chen. Today we proved that humanity's legacy is not dead. We proved that when life is threatened, we still know how to fight. But this is just the beginning. The devourers will return stronger, so we need to be ready." She paused, looking at the faces on the screens. Her people, the last humans. "Admiral Torres told me that what we did mattered. Today we proved her right. The 7th Fleet lives, and we will keep fighting until every last devourer is gone from this universe." The crew cheered, not because they had won, but because they had purpose. They were not ghosts of a dead species. They were guardians, and they would honor humanity's promise no matter the cost. The war ground on for 6 brutal months. Sarah Chen stood before a tactical display showing 47 star systems under attack. Red markers indicated devourer incursions. Blue showed human and council forces. Too much red. Never enough blue. "Commander, we lost the Valiant and the Defender at Theta Sector," Park reported, his voice hollow. "The devourers adapted to our quantum torpedoes. They're phasing out before the weapons can lock on." Sarah felt each loss like a physical blow. 2 more ships. 300 more crew. They had started with 47,000 humans. Now they were down to 31,000. Losses that could never be replaced. The devourers were learning faster than anyone expected. Every tactic humanity used, they adapted to within days. Every weapon they found a counter for. It was like fighting an intelligent disease that evolved in real time. "What's the status on the reinforcement fleet?" Sarah asked. "Council shipyards have completed 50 new vessels using modified human designs," Park said. "They're not as advanced as our ships, but they're something. Admiral Cross is bringing them to the front lines now." The modern galaxy had rallied. Dozens of species contributed resources, soldiers, and knowledge. They had reactivated ancient human weapons factories on dead worlds. They studied human tactics. They even recruited volunteers to serve alongside human crews. But it was not enough. The devourers kept coming. Sarah walked through the corridors of the Indomitable, seeing the exhaustion on every face. Her crew was running on fumes. They had been fighting for months without real rest. Even with stasis technology, human bodies and minds could only take so much. She found Engineer Santos in the main reactor room, covered in grease and running on stimulants. "Maria, when did you last sleep?" Santos looked up with bloodshot eyes. "Sleep? What's that?" "Commander, we have a bigger problem. The ship's systems are failing. I mean, really failing. The reactor shielding is degraded. The hull is developing stress fractures. Even with repairs, we're running on borrowed time." "How much time?" "Maybe 6 months before major systems start shutting down. These ships were designed to last a century, maybe 2. They've been active for 1,000,000 years. The metal is tired, Commander." "We're tired." Sarah put a hand on Santos's shoulder. "Do what you can. That's all any of us can do." She continued her rounds, stopping by the medical bay. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the chief medical officer, was treating wounded from the last battle. Burns from plasma fire, radiation sickness from dimensional tears. Psychological trauma from watching friends die. Commander, I need to talk to you about something, Tanaka said quietly. We're seeing a pattern in the Devourer attacks. They're not just consuming matter anymore. They're studying us, learning. What do you mean? Tanaka pulled up biological scans. We recovered samples from destroyed Devourer bioships. Their tissue is adapting. They're incorporating elements of our technology into their biology. It's like they're evolving specifically to counter us. Sarah felt cold dread. How long until they're completely immune to our weapons? At current rates? Maybe a year, probably less. The situation was deteriorating. The Devourers held 30 systems now. Billions of civilians had been evacuated, but millions more were trapped behind enemy lines. The Council was talking about a strategic withdrawal, abandoning entire sectors. Then Athena requested a private meeting with Sarah. The AI hologram appeared in Sarah's quarters, her expression grave. Commander, I have been analyzing data from the Devourer War. I have found something disturbing in Admiral Torres's classified files. Show me. Athena displayed records that had been sealed for 1,000,000 years. Research into the nature of the Devourers, what they were, where they came from. Humanity discovered that the Devourers are not invaders, Athena explained. They are something worse. They are the universe's entropy made manifest, a natural force that exists to break down excess complexity, to return organized matter to chaos. Sarah stared at the data. You're saying they're a natural part of the universe? Yes. Humanity tried to destroy them completely during the war. But Admiral Torres's research team discovered it was impossible. Destroying entropy would violate fundamental physics. The Devourers can be stopped, delayed, redirected, but not eliminated. What was Torres's plan? She never completed it. The war ended before she could finish her research. But there are references to something called Prometheus Station, a facility where humanity was developing a final option. The coordinates are in the database, but the files about what Prometheus actually does are corrupted. Sarah studied the star charts. Prometheus Station was far from current battle lines, hidden in a nebula that made scanning impossible. Could this be a weapon? Something that could end the war? Unknown, but Torres classified it as absolute solution, absolute cost. Whatever Prometheus is, she considered it dangerous enough to hide even from her own fleet. Sarah made a decision. Plot a course. We need to find Prometheus. The journey took 2 weeks. Sarah left half the fleet under Park's command to continue fighting. She took 50 ships and headed into unknown space, following coordinates that were over 1,000,000 years old. Dr. Velrax accompanied them. The insect scientist had become Sarah's unofficial advisor, helping her understand the modern galaxy while learning about ancient humanity. Commander, why do you think Admiral Torres hid this place? Velrax asked as they traveled. Because she was afraid of it, Sarah said. Torres was not a woman who scared easily. If she locked something away, it was for a good reason. They found Prometheus Station hidden inside a dying star, a massive construct, a Dyson sphere that harvested stellar energy. It was impossibly advanced, making even the 7th Fleet's technology look primitive. Scanning shows the station is still active, Park reported. It's been maintaining itself autonomously for over 1,000,000 years. Sarah led a boarding team inside. The station was clean, functional, and completely automated. The corridors were empty, but lights activated as they passed. The station was waiting for them. They reached the central control room. A holographic message activated automatically. Admiral Torres appeared, looking exhausted and sad. If you're watching this, the Devourers have returned, Torres's recorded voice said. I hoped this day would never come. I hope my sacrifice, our sacrifice, would be enough. But if they're back, you need to know the truth. Torres explained Prometheus. It was humanity's final weapon, a device that could manipulate entropy itself. Using the same forces that powered the Devourers, it could create a wave that would banish them permanently from normal space. But there's a cost, Torres continued. Using Prometheus will close all dimensional pathways between normal space and higher dimensions. Forever. No species will ever be able to transcend physical existence again. Evolution will stop at the material level. Sarah felt sick. That was why Torres had hidden it. The weapon would save the galaxy, but doom every species to remain physical forever. No ascension. No evolution beyond flesh and metal. Humanity had a choice, Torres said. Use Prometheus and survive, or refuse and take our chances. We chose to transcend. We chose to give younger species the opportunity to evolve naturally. But we left Prometheus behind just in case. If the Devourers return and threaten all life, the choice is yours now. The message ended. Sarah stood in silence, the weight of the decision crushing her. "Commander, we're detecting Devourer signatures," a crew member reported. Multiple hive ships entering the system. They followed us. Alarms blared throughout the station. The Devourers had found Prometheus. They knew what it was. They were coming to destroy it before humanity could use it. Sarah looked at her officers. "Battle stations. We hold this position, no matter what." The 7th Fleet, what remained of it, formed a defensive sphere around Prometheus Station. 3 hive ships emerged from dimensional portals, surrounded by thousands of bioships. The Devourers were throwing everything at them. The battle was immediate and brutal. Human ships fought with desperate courage, knowing they could not retreat. This was humanity's last stand, defending a weapon they might never use. Sarah watched as the Defender 2 exploded, consumed by dimensional weapons. The Victory rammed a hive ship, sacrificing itself to buy time. One by one, her ships died. "Commander, we can't hold them," Park said. "We need reinforcements or we need to activate Prometheus." Sarah looked at the activation controls. One decision: save the galaxy and doom it to material existence forever, or refuse and let the Devourers consume everything. She thought about Admiral Torres, about humanity's sacrifice, about the billions of lives depending on her choice. "Get me Admiral Cross on secure channel," she ordered. "And someone find me another option." "There has to be another way." The battle for Prometheus Station raged for 3 days. Sarah Chen had not slept, had barely eaten, as she watched her fleet die ship by ship defending humanity's last terrible secret. Outside the station's shields, the Devourers swarmed like locusts, consuming everything in their path. "Commander, the Resolute is down to 10% power," Park reported, his voice hoarse. "Captain Morrison is requesting permission to evacuate." "Denied." "We need every ship." Sarah's voice was cold, but inside she was screaming. Morrison had 300 crew aboard. All of them would die when the ship failed. But if Prometheus fell, trillions would die. Engineer Santos appeared on the main display, broadcasting from deep inside Prometheus Station. She had been studying the weapon for 2 days straight, trying to find another option besides the one Admiral Torres had left them. "Commander, I think I have something," Santos said, her eyes wild with exhaustion and hope. "Torres was right that we can't destroy the Devourers completely. They're entropy, they're a natural force. But what if we don't destroy them? What if we just redirect them?" Sarah leaned forward. "Explain." "Prometheus manipulates dimensional barriers. Torres planned to seal all higher dimensions permanently. But what if we just create a barrier between the Devourer's dimension and ours? Like a wall instead of closing the whole house. Would it work? Theoretically, yes. Instead of closing all dimensional access, we just create a permanent shield around normal space. The Devourers stay in their dimension, we stay in ours. Other forms of dimensional travel would still be possible. Species could still transcend." Sarah felt hope for the first time in weeks. "What's the cost?" Santos hesitated. "Energy. Prometheus was designed to draw power from this dying star, but creating a permanent dimensional barrier would require even more. It would need life energy." "How much life energy?" "All of us, Commander. Everyone currently in the station or close to it. The barrier would use our life force as a power source. We would die, but the galaxy would live, and species could still evolve, still transcend, still become more than physical beings." Sarah closed her eyes. There it was. The real cost. Not damning the galaxy to material existence, but sacrificing what remained of humanity to save it. "How many people would we need?" she asked quietly. "Based on my calculations, around 30,000. We currently have 31,000 humans left alive." The math was simple and terrible. All of humanity except for a handful would need to die. Again. "Commander, we have incoming," Park shouted. All 3 hive ships are converging on the station. They're preparing for a final assault. Sarah opened a fleet-wide channel. Every surviving human heard her voice. "This is Commander Chen. I need to be honest with you. We've found a way to stop the Devourers permanently, to create a barrier that will keep them locked in their own dimension forever. The cost is our lives. Almost all of us would need to sacrifice ourselves to power the barrier." She paused, letting that sink in. "But if we do this, the galaxy lives. Not just survives, but truly lives. Species will be able to evolve, to transcend, to become everything humanity dreamed of becoming. We would be giving them that future. I will not order you to die. This has to be a choice. Everyone who wants to volunteer, report to Prometheus Station immediately. Everyone who doesn't, take the evacuation ships to the council lines. You have 10 minutes to decide. Sarah cut the channel and waited. She expected maybe half to volunteer. She expected some to choose life over duty. 9 minutes later, Park reported, "Commander, all ships are requesting permission to dock at Prometheus. Every single crew member is volunteering." Sarah felt tears stream down her face. All of them? Every last one. They say if humanity is going to die, we die protecting life. That's who we are. Even Admiral Cross and the Council forces near Prometheus volunteered. Thousands of aliens who wanted to fight alongside humanity one last time. Negative, Sarah said firmly. Council forces evacuate immediately. This is humanity's sacrifice to make. You have your own species to return to. Live for us. Remember us. That's all we ask. As the council ships retreated, Sarah walked through Prometheus Station. She saw her crew preparing, saying goodbye to each other, recording final messages to a galaxy they would never see again. Dr. Velrax found her in an observation deck. The insect scientist looked small and sad. "You should leave with the others," Sarah said. "I wanted to thank you," Velrax said. "My entire life I studied human ruins, wondering what made your species so special. Now I know. You don't just fight for survival. You fight for others, even when it costs everything. We're not special, Doctor. We're just stubborn. No, you're extraordinary, and the galaxy will remember." Velrax left with the last evacuation ship. Sarah watched it go, carrying away the final aliens who had witnessed humanity's last stand. Now only humans remained. 31,000 souls preparing to die. Santos had the station ready. Prometheus is charged and locked on target. When we activate it, the dimensional barrier will form instantly. The Devourers will be sealed away forever, but the energy drain will kill everyone within 100,000 kilometers in about 30 seconds. "Will it hurt?" someone asked quietly. "No, your body will just stop, like falling asleep." Sarah thought about that. Falling asleep. After 1,000,000 years, maybe that was not such a bad way to go. "Commander, the Devourers are breaching the shields," Park reported. "We have maybe 5 minutes before they overrun the station." Sarah walked to the activation console. Her hand hovered over the control. One press and it would all be over. Humanity would die, but life would continue. She thought about Earth spinning peacefully in space, covered in museums dedicated to her species. She thought about Admiral Torres and the original sacrifice. She thought about the 47,000 humans who had awakened from stasis only to die in a war that should have ended 1,000,000 years ago. "Athena," she said, "are you still there?" The AI hologram appeared. "Always, Commander. Make sure the galaxy remembers this. Make sure they know why we did it." "I will. Humanity's story will never be forgotten." Sarah looked around the control room. Her crew stood ready, faces calm despite what was coming. They had accepted their fate. They were ready. "Any last words?" she asked them. Engineer Santos smiled sadly. "The long watch is over. We can finally rest." Park nodded. "We did our duty. That's enough." Marine Commander Kwame Okonkwo, who had led boarding actions against bioships, stood at attention. "Humanity's promise is kept. The galaxy is safe." Sarah took a deep breath. "Then let's finish this. For Admiral Torres. For Earth. For every human who ever lived and died protecting others." She pressed the activation button. Prometheus Station blazed with light. Energy poured out in waves, spreading across the galaxy at faster than light speeds. The dimensional barrier formed, a shield wrapping around normal space, sealing the Devourers in their own dimension forever. The 3 hive ships screamed as they were pulled away, dragged back to their realm by the barrier's formation. Every Devourer in the galaxy vanished, torn from normal space and imprisoned in their dimension of entropy. Inside Prometheus, Sarah felt warmth spreading through her body. No pain, just a gentle fading. She looked at her crew and saw them smiling. Peaceful. "Not bad for a 1,000,000-year-old fleet," she whispered. The light grew brighter. Sarah closed her eyes and thought of home. Of Earth in springtime. Of everything humanity had been and done. They had saved the galaxy twice now. Not bad for a species of stubborn primates. The light faded. Silence fell across Prometheus Station. 31,000 humans were gone. Humanity was finally extinct. But the barrier held. The galaxy was safe. 50 years later, Galactic Unity Day was celebrated across 47 worlds. It commemorated the day humanity saved all life for the final time. Children learned the story in schools. Museums displayed human artifacts with reverence. Monuments rose on 1,000 planets. Dr. Velrax, now ancient by his species standards, stood at the new memorial on Earth. It had been built next to the tomb of unknown humanity, 2 monuments now honoring 2 sacrifices. The new monument was called Prometheus Vigil. An eternal flame burned at its center, and on the base were carved the names of every human who died at Prometheus Station. All 31,000 names. 200 humans had survived. Santos had deliberately miscalculated the number needed by a small margin, ensuring a handful would live to pass on human knowledge. They had been far enough away to escape the energy drain. These survivors had integrated into galactic society. They taught, they shared human history and culture, they ensured humanity's legacy continued. They were the last living links to a dead species. One of them stood beside Velrax now. Commander Sarah Chen, somehow spared when she should have died. Santos had programmed the system to exclude Sarah from the energy drain at the last moment. A final gift from a friend. Sarah was old now, her hair white, her face lined. But she was alive. The last commander of the 7th Fleet. Do you regret it? Velrax asked quietly. Surviving when everyone else died? Sarah was quiet for a long time. Every day. But Maria made sure I lived for a reason. Someone needed to tell the story. Someone needed to make sure they're remembered correctly. Not as legends or myths, but as people. Scared, tired, grieving people who did what needed to be done. Above them, the indomitable orbited Earth. The last ship of the 7th Fleet preserved as a museum. Children toured its decks, learning about the humans who crewed it. The ship that sailed for 1,000,000 years and died saving the galaxy. They are remembered, Velrax said. Every child knows about Commander Chen and the 7th Fleet. Every species honors humanity's sacrifice. You achieved something remarkable. You made yourselves immortal through your actions. Sarah looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, species were evolving, transcending, becoming more than physical beings, something humanity had made possible twice. We just did what anyone would do, she said. No, Velrax said firmly. You did what only humanity would do. You gave everything so others could have a future. That's what makes you special. Sarah smiled sadly. She was tired. She had lived long enough. Her mission was complete. Humanity's story was told. Their promise was kept. She closed her eyes and felt a presence. Familiar voices. Admiral Torres. Engineer Santos, Park, Okonkwo. All of them waiting. Well done, Commander. Torres's voice echoed in her mind. The long watch is over. Come home. Sarah Chen took her last breath and smiled. She had done her duty. The galaxy was safe. Humanity's legacy was secure. And finally, after 1,000,000 years and 50 years more, the last human joined her crew in rest. The galaxy would remember them. Not as precursors or legends, but as what they truly were. Guardians who gave everything so that life could continue. Humanity was gone, but their gift remained. The promise was kept. And that, in the end, was enough.